West Legal Ed Center and Celeste Attorneys Ed Center would like to welcome you to today's program, The ABCs of the Remote Law Practice, a practical guide for lawyers and small firms. Please submit questions by using the Participation tab located under your viewer window. The program materials can be found under the Supplements tab. It's now my pleasure to turn things over to Jacob Stein for further introductions and to start the program. Jacob?
Thank you, Michael. Welcome, everyone, to this presentation on remote law practices. I'm Jacob Stein. I'm the managing partner of Alliant. We are a global law firm. And this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart because we've been exploring running our law firm in the United States on the remote basis. And this is something we've been looking at for years. And we have transitioned to being a remote-based law firm. And in the process of going into that transition, making that transition, I spend countless hours talking to, all the existing remote law firms out there, the bigger ones. I'll share with you who they are and how they operate, speaking to literally hundreds of lawyers about that model and perfecting that model. So I'm going to make a quick introduction of that structure and then hand it off to my much more qualified co-speakers. And I'll just kind of briefly introduce first who the speakers will be, and then talk a little bit about the law firm structures in general. So first we'll have Diane Camacho. Diane has spent more than 30 years as a legal manager in law firms of various sizes. She started her consulting practice in 2013, and she consults small firms around the country on a variety of management and operational issues, including starting up law firms and remote law firms. She speaks frequently in the legal community on operations, IOLTA accounts, software, starting new firms. She teaches law office management at San Francisco State University. And I've heard Diane speak a number of times. She's a wonderful speaker. And then after Diane, we'll have Larry Cohn. Larry is the president of Cohn Communications. His firm specializes in assisting lawyers in acquiring new clients, kind of focus on business development and perfecting the sales process. And I think Larry's been also doing this for over 30 years and has worked with probably well over 1,000 lawyers, from the biggest rainmakers at the Law 100 firms to solo practitioners. And Larry's also the developer of a fairly unique web app called bizdevcoach.com that uses a combination of tutorials and technology to help lawyers plan and implement business development strategies and kind of help them be accountable. And he's an author of a couple of books. One is called Selling in Your Comfort Zone, and the other Selling with Honor. And it's just a very, very well accomplished, very well known consultant and speaker. I've heard Larry speak as well, and he is just a wonderful presenter. And then following Larry will be Michael Bono. Michael is an attorney with our law firm with Alliant. Michael has practiced law for over 30 years. Including serving as both in-house and outside general counsel for various technology startups. He's very sort of tech savvy. And for our law firm, sort of on a global basis, Michael has been leading the AI charge. So he has spent a lot of time experimenting with and assessing AI tools for lawyers. And his presentation is wonderful. I've also heard him present this before, and it's a very, very interesting, very specific presentation. So if you think about, how we got here, right? So going back to 17th, 18th centuries, right? Lawyers practice as solos. There was no such thing as a law firm. You just had a lawyer who was a sort of a tradesman almost, right? Who practiced law, and then with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, mostly starting in the UK, right, you would see lawyers forming small cooperative, kind of like the original barrister offices in the UK, and they were like maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 lawyers. And it's only in the early 1900s that the cravat system was developed in the United States, where you would have these, large firms with partners overseeing, a lot of associates in this sort of a pyramid structure. for a law firm that we all grew up with. But what we started seeing I would say, in the mid 1980s is this evolution of the Cravath system in movement towards the remote, or what used to be called virtual law firms. So let's get the terminology straight. People use several terms for these types of firms. You can call them remote law firms, right, which signifies that lawyers are working remotely. And this can be a solo lawyer, right, with their own practice remotely, or it can be a law firm where lawyers are not in a central office, but they are in their own offices, wherever they happen to be. Often these firms nowadays are called decentralized law firms to sort of stress the fact that there's no central office. And then they used to be called more often in the past virtual law firms, but I think that's a bad terminology because there's nothing virtual about that a firm like that. It's a real firm, but lawyers are just not in a centralized office. But this movement towards the remote practice was started by a law firm called Fisher Broyles in the mid 1980s. Fisher Broyles over 30-some years grew to about 300 lawyers, although more recently half of their lawyers left to form a new firm. But starting even before COVID, a number of competitor firms have sprung up. The bigger ones being Ramon Law and Potomac Law Group and Taylor English. So all of these firms operate on a remote model, and all of them are sort of in the business of the firm servicing their lawyers, right? So these firms and the lawyers that work at these firms have a split of billings, right? So the billings that come in, let's say if it's a Ramon Law, and I'm using approximate numbers, something like 75% is going to go to the lawyer who originated the work and did the billings, and 25% is going to go to the law firm that to cover various direct costs and overhead like billings, collections, paralegals, marketing, bookkeeping, software subscriptions, and things of that nature. And these firms nowadays are, from a few dozen lawyers to a couple of hundred lawyers, and all the lawyers work from their own offices and not from a central office. And so similarly, our law firm, Alliant, has decided to adopt that model. And I'll just share our experience because I think I can be a little more specific about it with our own firm, just to show you guys how it works. So we have two different models. One model is for lawyers who are leaving, partners who are leaving big law firms, and instead of starting their own practice, they want to come into a firm like ours where they can practice really independently, right? They are really running, in a practical sense, their own practice. They can have their own office anywhere, like in an office building, or practice from a home office, doesn't matter to us. And our firm provides all these various services to these lawyers in exchange for 20% of collections, right? So they get paralegal support, they get various software like practice management software, document management software, things that Diane will talk about later. They get bookkeeping and billings support, and various other things that you'd expect a firm to provide to you, CLE training and what have you, networking, marketing, and so forth. And then we have another model that targets solo practitioners, and this is what we call a membership model. So this is really modeled after the Costco business model, where the firm has much more significant buying power than an individual lawyer, and we have significant economies of scale when it comes to insurance, to software subscriptions, bookkeeping, even paralegal services. And we directly pass through these cost savings to all of our lawyers, and in exchange they pay us a fairly nominal membership fee to be a part of the firm. And then, of course, if you're a part of the firm as opposed to being a solo lawyer, there are all sorts of other benefits built in, right? Access to networking, so you get other lawyers making referrals to you. You get origination credits if you refer work to other lawyers. You have support from other professionals, right? From other experts. You can go after much larger clients because you have the credibility of a much bigger brand. So as far as I'm concerned, kind of these remote practice models offer lawyers the best of both worlds, right? What's the best about being a solo lawyer? Meaning you have the independence of your practice. You get to pick what kind of clients you represent. You get to pick how much you charge them, how much you work, where you work from, right? So all of these wonderful benefits of being independent, and we're combining this with the benefits of being a big firm, like brand credibility, buying power, networking, business development, things of that nature. So I'm trying to merge those two together. So I strongly believe that this new model, the remote law model, especially for small to middle market practices, it's a beautiful new development. I think we're going to see a continued push in this direction. And certainly COVID made this much more appealing, right? It just became quite okay to be remote, to be virtual. There's no stigma attached to it anymore. A lot of people work nowadays like that. A lot of our clients work that way, right? So there's nothing wrong with lawyers doing it. And now we have the technology, and all of our speakers will talk about it, that enables us to be super productive working remotely, to connect us to clients, to connect us to other colleagues. So we can now run our practices much more cheaply than we used to be able to, and increase our profitability, reduce our stress. And I think it's just an incredible business model. So thank you everyone for joining. I will hand it off to Diane, and I will see you guys next time.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thanks.
I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to put my slides up and work on this as I'm talking, because that's what we do. We make sure that things are running no matter what. So I'm going to talk a little bit about technology and finances, and I'm going to talk a little bit as if you were opening a new firm. Now, what we're going to talk about is relevant to a firm that's already open or a firm that you're opening. So what I'm going to talk about are the importance of your finances, and not only understanding your finances, but protecting your finances. And there we go. Protecting your finances and knowing what your finances are, what your money is, where it's coming from, where it's going. One of the important things when you're thinking about your law firm is really being realistic about your revenue, not just, well, if everybody bills 2,000 hours at this rate, that's the money that I can expect next year. You really have to think about what the revenues have been, what the history has been with those people. So if people are supposed to be billing 1,400 hours, but they're only billing 1,000 hours, you're going to budget with the 1,000 hours. And when you're talking about your expenses, and particularly if you're starting up a law firm, what you really need to understand is you have to have a very good pro forma budget. And that's one of the things that we start out with when we're helping attorneys start firms. You have to know not only what it's going to cost for your attorneys, but you also have to know what you need personally to take care of your obligations. So what do you need to make in order to make your mortgage? And all of those expenses need to come into play when you're planning, when you're looking at financing, or if you're looking at expanding or bringing in a practice group. You really have to be very, very, very clear on what it costs for you to have an employee, what it costs for you to have an associate, and where the profit starts, where you start regaining your expenses and starting to make a profit. So it's really important to understand where your money's coming from, what you need to spend your money on, and where you're going to get that funding, certainly in the beginning, or if you're a contingency firm or something like that. You have to be very clear about your finances. That's number one. A lot of times we just kind of go through, well, I made this money, so I'll take this amount of money out. That's not very efficient for your longevity of your firm. A lot of people don't like to budget, but you really should be budgeting. The other thing that you want to be really careful about, and it's easier in larger firms, but in small firms you can still do it. You really need to have checks and balances in your accounting department, and this is one of the things that the smaller firms sometimes don't pay enough attention to. They are saying, well, I've been working with this person for 20 years and there's no reason why I need to look at my bank account or I need to make the transfers. I trust Diane to do it. She's been doing it for a long time. Well, you don't know if Diane's going to have a grandchild in the hospital and need $5,000 in order to pay for the specialist and not have it and have access to your accounts. You don't know what I would do in that situation. You don't want to put me in that situation. You don't want to allow me to borrow from your account. And that's what happens a lot. People, maybe they start using drugs, or maybe they have some kind of emergency and they're like, I'm just going to take this money and put it back next month. Don't allow your employees, don't set them up to do that. That's really what's important. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're reviewing your bank statements. That's the easy one, right? Used to get paper bank statements and you would give it to the owner of the firm and it would be sealed and they would open it up. They would look at the bank statement. They would say, everything looks fine. I recognize all these expenses, and then it would be reconciled. Now you can, as an owner of a firm, you can go in and look at your bank every day if you want to and what's cleared. You need to do that. You need to take responsibility for really looking at what is coming into your firm and what is going out to your firm. Do you recognize all of those vendors? And it's really easy to make sure that you're doing that simply by reviewing your activity in all of your accounts. You don't need to give access to your accounts to everybody in your accounting department or anybody in your accounting department. There are different access levels at banks. You want to make sure that you aren't giving anybody access to transfer money out of your trust account. Period. In a small firm, the owner should get a report that says, we need to transfer this amount of money out of the trust account and go into the operating account that accounts for these bills and these collections. And again, this is all, we can all do this virtually. You can do this from anywhere, but you need to be able to be the person that's wiring that money. You're the person responsible for that. Do not allow somebody else, because it's easier for you or you're in a different country, to wire that money on your behalf. Do not allow somebody to, I've had clients where they have trust account checks and they have a signature stamp and somebody is stamping those checks for them and sending them out off of their trust account. That's just unnecessary in our world today. You can do an ACH, you can do an electronic check. All of these things are possible now in our virtual world. So make sure you're taking advantage of those. Your billing, make sure that you know who your clients are and you are reviewing your bills very carefully and what's coming in and how it's coming in. How are you getting your money? Are you getting it from a credit card now? How is it coming in and where is it coming from? And again, spot checking things so that they look right. There isn't a strange client or a client that you're sending trust money back to, whatever it is. Make sure that you're watching that. And then your accounts payable. You can do your accounts payable from anywhere now. There's something called bill.com. Your banks will do it for you. There are very, very slick and easy ways to have somebody enter all of your accounts payable and say, these are ready to pay. This is the money you have in your checking account. And you go in and click the button online that says, okay, pay this, pay this, pay this, pay this, don't pay this until next week. So all of these checks and balances are actually easier electronically than they were when everything was paper in your office. So make sure that that's really important for you. And the reports that you should be looking at, again, you can be running these now. People aren't using QuickBooks Desktop much anymore. You have to use, as an owner, you should have access to your books. You should be able to go in and see what's going on with your expenses and your income and your profits and loss and all those kinds of things. I highly recommend that you have a product that obviously gives you your profit and loss and your balance sheet for your overall health of your firm, and that's what your bank wants to, all of that kind of thing, your tax person. But then you have to really look at what your hours worked, billed, and collected are. And it's very important to know not just what's billed and collected, but how many hours did this person work? How many hours did you budget for them to work? How many hours did they work? How many of that was billed? And how much was collected? because that's really what matters, is what's collected, not what's billed. So you need to look at those, and you need to have reports that will show you that. And again, the new software coming out, which is web-based, as an owner, you should be able to go in and run this report when you want to. It's not something that's on a server in your office and only your accounting department can give it to you. You should be able to spot check these. The other thing is what kinds of cases you are taking on and whether those cases are profitable or not. If you're doing estate planning and probate, well, what kind of estate plans are the most profitable for you? What are your referral sources? Where are you getting your business? Where do you want to put your marketing dollars to support those referral sources? Again, all of these reports, all of this information is at your fingertips with the new SaaS-based software. You can get this information if you're programming your software properly. So these are kind of standard reports that I would recommend that you're looking at. And then we have to IOLTA accounts. The IOLTA accounts are I do whole speaking on this and training on this, and the IOLTA accounts are the place that attorneys get sanctioned and disbarred for across the country. So we support law firms across the country, and we find the same problems in a firm in Texas as in Maine, as in California. You need to make sure that you're not borrowing from your trust. So you're not saying, oh, on Friday I have payroll, so I know that I've entered time for these clients and it's this amount of money, so I'm going to draw the money out of the trust account. That's borrowing money. You haven't billed those clients. They don't know that you are taking that money and it's theirs. So make sure you're not borrowing from the trust account. Make sure you're not commingling your funds. Again, this is those, I only want to have one link on my website for people to pay, and it goes into my operating. And then I transfer it to trust if it's a trust reimbursement or something like that. No. Clients are really smart. They identify with two different links. This is to pay retainer, and this is to pay this bill that's going on there. You don't want to commingle. Any money that has any income that has any piece of that income, part of your client's money must go into trust first. So make sure that you're doing that, and make sure that you're not commingling. You don't want to have your bank fees being paid out of your trust account. You don't want to give improper access to your accounts. That's when I'm talking about having somebody stamp your name and writing a check out of your trust account. That's, you should be, as the owner, you are responsible for your client's money, and you should be doing those transfers. And on your books and all that kind of stuff, make sure that it's listed as a liability, that you have your bank account, and then underneath the line it's a liability, and your CPA can talk to you about that. And then there's the record keeping errors. You must reconcile your bank trust account with your time and billing software. But reconciling your bank account with your QuickBook account makes no difference. Your clients think that they have the amount of money that's on their statements, and that's what you want to make sure you have in the bank. So you want to know where you're spending your time. That's tracking your time, even your marketing time, the value of your time, how much it costs to create your widget, and your widget is an hour or a flat fee. And remember that your bookkeeper cannot be disbarred for mishandling your trust account money. Can somebody tell me how much time I have left?
5 minutes.
I have 5 minutes left? Okay, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit about technology, but Michael's going to talk a little bit more specifically because of all the AI that's required. So what you need is the basics. You need to have a word processing program. You need to have email. You need to have somewhere to store your client documents that's highly secure. You need to have some kind of research software, and this is where the AI comes in and it's real helpful. You need to have time and billing, you need to have finance, and you need to have some way of creating forms or automating your document production. So that's your basic. Anything over and above this, you certainly can have, but these are the things that you need to make sure that your firm has and you're supplying it to your employees. Software now has to be virtual and versatile. It needs to be mobile, it needs to be secure, and it needs to be common, and you need to be able to get support on it. Versatile is obvious. It needs to be able to do a lot of different things, create the reports. Mobile means that your people should be able to track time on their phones. That's what I consider mobile. Not only can they use it at their mother's house, but they can also track time on their phone. Secure. This is really important. A lot of folks are using Dropbox and things like this, and I don't recommend this. I don't think it's created for securing your clients' banking information and your clients' finances. You need to make sure that you've got some kind of ultra secure software storage system. It needs to be common enough. When we're in small firms, we don't want to be the beta testers. We want to be able to Google, how do I do this in Outlook, and have an answer come up. So that's something that I like to be able to provide for our clients, is making sure that it's common enough that they can get support for it. And if they need to outsource it, they can outsource it. QuickBooks, if you're using QuickBooks and something happens, you can find somebody that uses and that works on QuickBooks and that can do your books for you. Xero, not so much. Practice management software. I'm just going to talk. I'm talking very quickly now. I'm speeding up. I'm sorry. But the practice management software, in my opinion, comes in 3 different levels. You have the level of a Clio or a MyCase or Practice Panther or Smokeball. Those that you need to connect with QuickBooks. Those really are created for very, very small firms. That is a firm with 1 owner, or with 2 owners that are splitting the revenue equally. You cannot do complicated splits and originations, and this person gets 15% of that. You can't do that with those small programs. You end up buying another program to do that for you, and you don't need to. The next level is the level that's really being really coming in, and there's a lot of things happening in this kind of middle, what I consider middle market. These are the software programs that have your finance and your practice management and your document management. In some cases, it's an all-in-one. You don't have to have Xero or QuickBooks. And those are the ones that are going to give you more robust reporting. And what you want to look at when you're looking for software is what you're going to get out of the software. You need to talk to your bookkeeper and your accounting folks about what software you're choosing to make sure that what you're having them do is possible on that software. And then you have the large firms. You have the Scaddons and the Kirklands and all of those kinds of things. And those are the kind of the 3E and the Adirant, the large firm. The other thing I'm going to talk about just for 2 seconds is servers. In a small firm, we do not have enough money to secure our client documents the way they need to be secured now in a house. Putting your documents and putting your information in a cloud-based system is not about saving money. It's about being hacked. It's about making sure that your client information is secure. The only clients that I've seen, the only clients that we've had that have been hacked have been on a server in their office or a server in another office that they're VPNing into. So just be very, very careful when you're pricing things out, what your risk, what you're willing to risk, because I haven't heard of, OneDrive being hacked yet. Maybe it has, I don't know. So hacking is important. Securely exchanging your client information. Again, this is even Outlook now, you can encrypt your emails when you're sending them. So making sure that not only you send information securely, but your client sends it to you securely. And put it in your engagement letter that they're responsible for what they use. Separate your home computer from your family's computer. Just do it. Buy a computer for $500 for your family and let them do it. Train now. train later, train again. This software changes all the time. When we get new software, we learn what we have to do at that time. We don't learn the little nuances and the tricks and the specialties. Again, like Michael is going to talk about, you need to get training on this constantly because everything is changing. So those are things that I think that you should be thinking about when you're in a small firm or starting a small firm, as far as technology and finance. And I'm done. And I think it's Larry's turn.
Wait,
Yes,
before
you're
Larry
right.
goes, hold on, Larry. I'm going to call an audible. We didn't discuss
Okay.
this since we're right at the midway point. How about I read the what needs to be read for the New York attorneys in the office?
Perfect.
In the audience, I mean. So I'm supposed to read this. In order to comply with New York regulations, attorneys looking for CLE credit in New York will need to be able to provide a code. This code is not intended for the West Legal Ed Center audience, either live or on demand. I will read this code twice and only twice, and cannot repeat it or email it to you. So please make note of it. The New York State code number is A as in Apple, L as in Lima, 348-41924. Again, the New York State code number is A as in Apple, L as in Lima, 348-41924. So now take it away, Larry.
Great, thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. I'm going to see if I can now find my PowerPoint here. Let's see. I'm going to go to Windows, and I'm not sure how this is working here. Hold on. I'm sharing. Let me go here. Are you able to see my presentation, Michael?
No, we see your desktop. So we see
And
what
you
you,
don't, and you don't see the
no,
PowerPoint.
no, we see our pictures.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to try to get out of this, and I'm going to do share screen. And can we see that now?
Nope.
Well,
So,
that's a shame.
Larry, if you see if it's configured the same as mine, there's a red leave button at the top right, and next to it's a share button with an arrow pointing
Yes,
up the folder.
I've clicked on that.
Yeah, if you click that and you scroll down, browse my computer, and if you do that, you can pull up your file and just click on it, and it should appear.
Okay. I see the Legal Center Trust Building article. I don't see where it would be the, it doesn't have a place to choose my PowerPoint.
Okay, the share button, you see a share button, a share with a folder with an arrow up. You see that?
Yes, I've got that. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the different things that are on my screen.
Yeah, and then at the very bottom, I see where you can browse your computer. It says browse your computer. You have to click that to pull it up off of your computer.
I don't see that button. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go to my PowerPoint, and I'm going to, because I did this before, and for some reason I'm not seeing the same structure.
Larry, you want to email it to me and I'll pull it up and you can start your presentation?
That would be great. Hold on one second. This is so frustrating. Let's see, Chrome tab. Let me try that window. Let me try one more time. For some reason, I don't see the link that I needed before. Okay, I'm going to do that, Diane. I'm going to email to you. Hold on. Diane Camacho, and I'm going to attach a file, and it's going to be PowerPoint.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start, and I will pull it up and start sharing it. I don't, but go ahead and start talking. It'll come.
Oh, it hasn't gotten sent yet. Hold on. Here we go. Got it. Send. Okay, I've sent it off to you, Diane. So I'll begin by, first of all, apologizing because I had this down before and now it's not working correctly. So anyway, the first thing I want to talk about is the benefits of a remote practice. And Jacob addressed this briefly, but one of the great benefits is a significant expense reduction because, of course, you don't have rent, and that's one of the huge expenses. So this is a great benefit for those of you who are contemplating starting a practice. No rent, way less overhead. It's a superior life experience. But most important of all, it's a greater geographic reach. It gives you the ability to do business farther away. And interestingly enough, people think that remote law firms are new. They're really not new because people who have had the ability to have clients far away have been doing remote practices since they've been working with clients that are far away. So it's really something that is available to you and really wonderful. It's a dramatic stress reducer. It gives you the ability to have a life experience that is far superior. I've been remote for over 40 years. It's been a dramatic, wonderful life experience. So I urge you to consider it for that purpose. Another issue are the obstacles that would stop you. And the biggest obstacle are the old habits. The old habits that people have that make them feel comfortable with working with individuals in an in-person relationship. People are accustomed to walking down the hall and chatting with somebody, and that feels good. And so we are accustomed to doing things in a way that have created these habits that are very deep, and we have to think about better ways to operate and look at our old habits and see if they're valid and see if they're worthy of changing. The next issue are the misconceptions that people have. People have dramatic misconceptions about what clients think about remote. Everybody prefers remote now. Clients prefer remote. How often do you have people come into your office these days? Remote is easier for the clients, and there are these conceptions that, gee, it doesn't look like I'm really a professional. That's just not true anymore. People want a remote lawyer. They want to be able to get the job done, and we have to really think about analyzing everything that would stop you from being remote and ask yourself, is this rational or is it irrational? And not worry about the misconceptions. Let's move on to the next slide. And so let's really get into the meat of this. If we're going to create a remote practice, you have to have internal communication that replaces walking down the hall, replaces having a meeting together in a room, replaces the water cooler. And the term that we use is structured communication. So we have to develop very structured systems for meeting with the people that are important to us. So that means that instead of just saying, hey, I'll talk to this person by walking down the hall, you need to have an understanding that you are going to have one-on-one conversations. And here is a rule that I would like to share with you that I would recommend that you implement for the rest of your career. You should write this down, and this will probably be a change in your behavior. So you should always negotiate the next conversation. No matter who you're talking to, if they're important to you, you must always negotiate the next conversation. You don't want to leave it up to, gee, let's talk again when we get a chance, because being able to reach people, it might not be as easy as you'd like. You can't walk down the hall and see them at the office. You're not going to bump into them in the elevator. So we need to negotiate the next conversation. And you're going to find that that simple technique is going to make a massive difference in the way you interact with your relationships on a remote basis. The other issue is structured group meetings. When you have, not quite yet, thank you. When you have a meeting with a group, you should always either negotiate the next conversation while you're all together or have a set meeting. And another issue that's very important in a remote communication environment is calling on people in the group. Not everybody in a group meeting is going to be willing to share their views. They might not be comfortable bringing attention to themselves. So the structure for a group meeting in a remote practice is to go around the room. You'd say, okay, Michael, what are your thoughts about this? And okay, Diane, what are your thoughts about this? And your ability to identify each person in that room and engage them so that they participate is very, very important. Otherwise, there's a likelihood that somebody might not participate in the way that they should. So you want to have structured meetings in that they have a time. You always want to negotiate the next time, and you always want to make sure that everybody is participating in the meeting. Okay, next line.
Excuse me, Larry, before you go on next, 5 minutes. Can you do it?
Thank you. Absolutely.
All right.
So the next issue that I want to talk about is this concept of shared screen delegation. If you are remote, even if somebody is next door, it is a great idea for you to always have a shared screen on your computer when you're talking to somebody that you're delegating to. So even if you are in the same office with somebody, it's better not to go into their office. It's better to have a shared screen on your computer. They have the same screen on their computer. And if in an ideal world, you can both edit independently and look at documents together. That is the way to delegate in a remote practice. This notion of going into somebody's office and talking about something is so outdated and so ineffective. And even people who are next door to each other are learning to delegate using shared screen delegation. Next slide. The next issue is remote business development. And in order to do that, you need to find out what are the remote events. And the key to a remote event is an event that shows people's names on the screen, like Michael's name is showing and Diane's name is showing. If you go to a CLE event and you don't know who's attending, that doesn't give you the ability to reach out to those people and introduce yourself. But if you could find events where people are participating and networking and in getting involved and revealing who they are, then you can reach out to them and have further conversations. Next line. And then you want to produce your own remote event. So in 2 minutes, I want to tell you the greatest marketing strategy that I've ever seen in the 43 years of my being a marketing consultant to law firms. And that is joint venture marketing opportunities. So let's say you're a corporate lawyer and you want to meet the business community, the general business community. Bring together other people who also want to interact with those people and put together joint venture networking opportunities. So invite a banker, invite a CPA, invite an insurance agent, and each of you invite your contacts. So if 5 people get together and create a networking event or a webinar or a program that allows each of those people to invite 5 people, you end up with lots of guests, people you don't know, and it's all done remote. It's done from the comfort of your office. It is an astoundingly effective marketing strategy because you're developing a relationships with your referral sources, but you're also gaining access to their contacts by doing joint venture remote marketing activities. It's changed the lives of my clients. I've been doing them ever since I've been in business, and they really are great. So that's a tip that I would like to suggest. And next line, please. Obviously, I would like to talk to you about this. If you have any questions about your ability to market effectively from a remote practice, please email me, larry@cohncommunications.com, or call me. And I look forward to chatting with you about how you can market remotely. And with that, Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you. And thank you, Diane, for handling the slides.
No problem.
All right, thank you, Larry. Let's see, is my, I'm going to replace you, the irreplaceable, and wait for my presentation to come up. But the focus of my presentation will be on the practical hands-on use of AI tools that are designed specifically for the legal profession. These tools obviously can be used in any practice, but they're especially helpful for those who do remote work. It's just amazing what you can do right now from anywhere. So I have a lot of material to cover, a short amount of time. And then I will just reach out after this is over with. You can reach out to me by email and with any questions you have, or pose them as we go. Okay, so like it or not, AI is here to stay. We need to adapt and leverage AI tools to remain competitive. I've embraced the technology in my own practice. My perspective is as a maritime commercial transactions attorney, but the tools I'll discuss aren't just for business lawyers. It's safe to say that we all analyze information, we all research subjects, we all draft documents, whether it's pleadings or contracts or demand letters or whatever. So if you do any of those things, then you're at the right place. Now, for my disclaimer, these tools aren't perfect, far from it. There's no substitute for legal experience and judgment. Check everything, verify. I always keep in mind the limitations of AI and the need to protect sensitive data. But these specialized tools, and I got to emphasize that, the specialized tools for AI, for lawyers especially, they're built with strict data protection in mind because they know their audience. And also, you have to keep in mind, you have to know how to coax information out of the AI. You have to learn prompt engineering. So look that up and do it and train. Learn how to effectively ask questions of AI to get the right results that you're looking for. But if you take the time to learn these tools, you could really increase your productivity and improve the quality of your work and help future-proof your law practice. So what can you do with generative AI tools for the legal profession? Here's a list of some of what you can do. These types of things, these tools, AI tools for these sorts of tasks weren't available just a little over a year ago. And I'll try to briefly touch on each of these in my presentation. Legal research, deposition prep, I'm going to cover database searches, review contracts, and then drafting contracts. I think that's about what I'll be able to get through. And of course, there's the legal research aspect of this. We've all been doing legal research by computer for a long time now, but now goodbye Boolean search, hello natural language search. You give these AI tools instructions like you would speaking to a new associate or a paralegal. Well, sort of. It's you need to learn prompt engineering to give them clear and concise instructions to these AI models to coax what you need out of them. Now, one of the things you can do with these tools is you can draft very basic legal memos, but only on very focused issues. The AI is not sophisticated enough right now for you to hit it with a lot of multifaceted legal issues. So we have to do point by point. So in this example, I have, does an expert witness need formal credentials to testify in New York? And here's the result. A brief answer is there at first. Based on the authorities provided, it appears that an expert witness in New York does not need to, blah, blah, blah. And then it comes with case citations that follow. These are actual cases, real ones, not like what you heard in the news about ChatGPT making up cases, the hallucinations that you hear about. That's, hallucinations are when generative AI creates false information that is confidently presented by the AI as being real and accurate. But these specialized tools are designed to really avoid that, or just at least minimize it substantially, because these systems are trained on legal data and they have a lot of safeguards in mind. Let's see, deposition prep. Here's another thing. I haven't done a deposition in 30 years, but for those who, this also applies to even if you want to prepare a detailed list of questions for a new client during the intake process, to get you going. It's clear that you have to give them context, the AI context, whenever you need to come up with a detailed list, who you represent, what areas you need to cover in the deposition, and so on. And it will give you a roadmap in return. So in this example, I entered, I'm deposing the CFO of a software company in an antitrust case centered on price fixing. The witness is known to be untrustworthy. And then you click generate topics, and it spits out a list of topics. Let's take a closer look at the final one, the CFO's history of untruthfulness or untruthfulness in prior depositions or testimony. And then you click on that and you get, here's a little snippet from a very long list of questions that the AI created. Have you ever been accused of providing inaccurate or untruthful information in financial reports or testimony? Have you ever been disciplined for blah, blah, blah? Well, you get the point. I mean, you get pages of this kind of detail. And just to think how long it would take for you to come up with this on your own, and how much of a time saver this is. And this is not something you just take and run with it. You take it and you modify it, or you ask the AI to hone in on certain areas and give more detail. So moving on to review documents. This is a thorough line-by-line review of a set of documents to answer a set of questions. It can identify key clauses, potential issues it can flag, provide insights. It really helps you stream the document review process. So here's an example. This is I love this example. I got this example when I was receiving training in co-counsel, which is where these screenshots are coming from right now. I'll talk about the co-counsel in a little bit, but my trainer had uploaded 500,000 emails from the Enron case up into a database that was created in co-counsel, and pulled up one particular document and asked this question: does the document contain any evidence of someone concealing something? Now, that kind of goes against what I just instructed early. Be concise, and I think this is kind of broad, but look at the result that it produced. It says the document does not explicitly mention concealment, but the mention of off-balance sheet special purpose vehicle could imply that something is being hidden or obscured. That's something I find amazing. This is powerful stuff that wasn't available in the former age of keyword searches. We now have technology that understands context. So imagine having a conversation with your files. Now, that's a bit dramatic, but I'm not far off. I'm talking about huge volumes of information. It's good when you have a lot of documents and you need to find a needle in a haystack. So you got to remember that the old ways of doing keyword searches is dead. Generative AI searches for concepts that match the concepts in your question. That just broadens everything and brings so much more meaningful data into your hands. Just think about all the information in your files that you've collected spanning a career. There's a lot of value there. I know I reinvent the wheel way too much. Now that I'm implementing these tools, not so much anymore. But I would always, I remember doing something in this case that's similar to what I'm doing now, and I just don't remember, and you just wind up creating it from scratch, and I've seen that over and over. I'm sure you have too. Now, if you upload your files to your own private and protected database, now you can find stuff that was hidden before that you could not access. And again, you're just tapping into to gold, I think. So you create, here's a screenshot here. You create a database for various purposes, such as to serve as a brief bank, or for e-discovery, or for litigation records, or deposition transfers, or whatever. And then you can do a search of it. In this example, for a database of contracts. I asked it if a pandemic disrupted the supply chain, would the manufacturer still be liable? And it comes back with the results. And that so it's a summary, and then you can click on the link, pull up the actual source document, and it will take you right to the language that was highlighted in the summary. So I gave you a broad overview of things that are possible right now, and I want to move on and touch on contract drafting and analysis, but all the screenshots I showed you are from CoCounsel by Casetext. Now, this is billed as the world's first AI legal assistant. It truly was the first. They got a jump on everybody else in the legal technology field because early on, Casetext had a partnership with OpenAI, and they're the creator of ChatGPT, which is the behemoth in this space, and so they had this partnership. They developed CoCounsel together. So when CoCounsel was released, there was nothing else out there. So I don't know of any other tool for lawyers that has more functionality, broader functionality than CoCounsel, and it's only going to get better because around 6 months ago, the legal resource behemoth Thomson Reuters bought Casetext, and now they're integrating all of Thomson Reuters materials into CoCounsel. So, Thomson Reuters owns Westlaw and the Practical Law series and a slew of treatises. So now all that will soon be coming through CoCounsel. But there's other tools out there that are more specialized. CoCounsel has broad functionality. It just added a drafting feature, but it's mainly limited to correspondence right now for emails and drafting letters. But there's other specialized tools out there that are hitting the market, like Spellbook. I have a subscription to this one also. This one is really only does contract drafting and analysis. It was trained on tens of thousands of contracts. One of the great things about it is that it works right within Microsoft Word. It's an add-on. You can open an existing contract in Word and then open a side panel and click a few buttons and have Spellbook perform a review. It will alert you if the contract is missing standard clauses or definitions, and then it will suggest wording. It even provides multiple versions of a clause. You can select the one you like, you click a button, and the clause is automatically inserted into the proper place in the contract in redline form. And of course, then you can tweak it as you wish. It can detect aggressive terms, suggest alternatives, it highlights negotiating points. It's like having another set of eyes critique your contracts and make helpful suggestions. So another service that's similar to Spellbook is Ivo. It's formerly Latch. I had a demonstration of this. It was impressive, very sophisticated functionality. There's others coming out as well. They're popping up in my Facebook feed because I search on this kind of stuff. Discovered one called All Drafts at alldrafts.com and another one Legal On at legalontech.com. I haven't checked those out yet, but there's more of these specialized tools, targeted tools are coming out. The broader tools, the CoCounsel competitors, it's slow to develop those kind of competitors to that. So continuing with Ivo, here's an example. Was asked to review a contract against a checklist of requirements, one of which was do not accept one-way indemnities from the customer to the company. So if the contract has terms that are counter to the requirements, then the system suggests languages to bring the contract into conformity and makes redlined edits. Well, here's another example, but I'm running low on time, so I'm going to pass that one up. Another targeted solution is Gavel, a very sophisticated document automation features. It's made possible by the use of AI and machine learning. They're all about very sophisticated workflows. The AI has been trained in the nuances of specific practice groups like corporate law and estate planning and family law and general law firm administration, and with more practices to come. So I'm going to skip this one right now to move on. But actually, I was into my bonus material already. I had so much stuff like again, going back to CoCounsel, and it can automatically summarize key points from lengthy legal documents or contracts, and it's great for if you need to quickly digest and understand large amounts of information, or see if a long article is relevant to what you're looking for. And you can instruct it to give you different levels of briefs, detailed or brief or detailed or comprehensive, and then you know, here's an example. I put in there a law review article on artificial intelligence in the law, and it spits out, this is one of the lengthier ones. You can see it breaks it up in by page groupings. You can have a summary, a one paragraph summary. It's really open. So I'm going to skip this one. It's going to take a little while to explain that one. Extract contract data. Extract data from contracts. This is another thing that Co-Counsel can do. It automatically can pull up and extract data points from contracts, such as parties and dates and payment terms and obligations. And you know, here's one. You know, you can. Well, it's going to take me a little too much to explain it, so I'm going to move on. Oh, and this is just bonus. This has nothing to do with the law. This is general research tool. So this is available to the public, but everybody I tell Perplexity about thanks me for it. So I'm just going to throw it out there. It is a, you know, we used to always Google everything and get a list of links and have to click on the links and determine if it was relevant or not. And then ChatGPT burst on the scene, and then Google came out with Bard, which is now called Gemini. And now I rarely use Google. I rarely even use ChatGPT. If I have a general question about anything, or if I need detailed step-by-step instructions on something, I ask Perplexity. Literally, you can dictate a question and engage in conversation. Here's what the main page looks like, and here's the example. Provide step-by-step instructions to require a person to electronically sign documents via DocuSign, blah blah blah. I never research. I never look at manuals anymore. I go to this and say, give me detailed step-by-step instructions, and here's the output. And the thing I like about this most, and I'm using my laser pointer, is here. It gives footnotes. So you can't get this in ChatGPT. You click on one of these, and it pulls up the source materials so you can read it on the spot. And you can see it provides some responses here. This is where the images are put that are responsive to the request. Get the $20 a month paid prescription. You get much better results than the free version. Now, and then I'm going to close with cautionary tale. Problem with many of these AI tools that are available to the general public. I'm not talking about the specialized tools that I talked about, but these are the general public tools that most people are using. They, by default, they use your searches and your data to train and improve their AI models. Well, you shouldn't be putting in sensitive information into ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these anyway. But you know, something, you know, if you slip up every once in a while, you want to have these settings turned on or turned off. Actually, you need to turn off the data sharing settings. This can be done in ChatGPT also with the paid plan, the $20 per month paid plan, which I highly recommend. Interestingly, tools like Gemini, on the other hand, don't offer this level of privacy protection. So I tend to stay clear of them. And then, but you got to watch for ChatGPT. It can be sneaky at times. It can reset without you knowing. So this is so let me get my pointer on. This is the screen that you would see with data sharing turned off, and you can't really see it very well here. So I blew up the warning. So if you have a paid subscription to ChatGPT and you're doing a search and you do not see this box, that means your information is being shared with ChatGPT, and you don't want that. So those are my thoughts on this. I'd be welcome if anybody has questions or or looking for more, I'd be glad to help. Here's my contact details, my email address, mbono@alliantlaw.com. Okay, you can connect to me on LinkedIn, and I'll do my best in pointing you in the right direction. So I think that's about it for now. Larry and Diane and Jacob, I think we are ready to sign off.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you too. All right, bye, everybody. Hope this was helpful.